Yo.
For joining me, Cassidy. Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I am a senior currently at Liberty University studying graphic design. And my internship over this past summer was with Liberty Athletics. And so I just have been learning a lot about photography and graphic design and video and all that goes into it, the process behind it. So now I'm working as a student worker for Liberty Creative Services.
Okay. So y'all have my boy Malik over there.
Yes, I do.
Going crazy with
Hey,
you guys. Ah, that's so good. It's
for
cool to
sure.
see. So what experience have you had so far at Liberty?
Honestly, it's been so great just being able to learn from there's great creatives at Liberty as a whole, not just on the athletic side, but just learning from all the professors. They have just so much knowledge, but also humility that come into it, and they're really eager to teach. So it's been a great experience, and I've learned so much about myself as a designer and photographer, but also as a person. So that's been really cool.
Okay, cool. What goals coming out of school? And I mean, I guess just from this conversation, what things do you want out of both?
Yeah, so I guess goals coming out of school, just to be able to gain experience, not necessarily coming out with a full-time job, but maybe coming out with an internship in a professional field or even at the collegiate level where I'm able to like work alongside people who are um, absolutely talented and skilled in their craft, and
Mhm.
just be able to gain that experience and learn from them. Because I think that even pros are always learning on the creative side from other people, but I just want to be able to kind of shadow them and learn about that, but also learn about myself and develop my own like aesthetic as far as editing and design goes. And then just like as far as goals coming out of this conversation, I'm just really eager to learn just how you kind of got started and what has really benefited you as you've learned how to take better photos and how to edit better. And also just like what your process looks like. I think that a lot of the times I get stuck in maybe this isn't the most efficient way to edit, but how do you um, take the photos and have a set process that benefits you and is most efficient?
Okay. So another thing I want to reiterate now, because I know that I said this before we started, is these are all whatever I say, you do not have to do. Like this is just my professional opinion on certain things to do. You can take it however you'd like to. Um, so going back to your goals, I would like for you to be extremely specific about what you
Okay.
want. So it may seem like an abstract concept to
Hmm.
form this picture in your mind, but tell me a place you want to be, like a specific team. Tell me
Okay.
what specific position you want to have. Like those, nailing down
Okay.
those goals first will
Yeah.
really help you have a clearer path rather than kind of like, okay, I'll try this over here, I'll try this over here. Like these are the steps. It'll help
Yeah.
you show the steps better.
Okay. Well, I specifically have the goal to intern with an NFL team coming out. I graduate in May, and most of their internships start at the end of May. People start applying after their seasons, but specifically with either photo or design, getting an internship with them and
Hmm.
then having that coming right out of the gate after graduation is a goal that I have.
Okay. And I'm going to say we're going to go more specific. What
Okay.
team? What team do you want to work for?
Well, I'm from Colorado, so
Hmm.
the Broncos is definitely um, an option that I have and have desired to have. And then also, I've really loved everything that the Panthers have been doing, and I know that they offer an internship. So Broncos, Panthers, and then the Falcons creative team has been great too. So just researching those would be the top three teams.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So as far as this look that you're wanting to achieve, explain a little bit more in detail what that look is.
As far as editing goes.
Hmm.
Um, I really want to achieve an editing style that is timeless and not trendy. I think like it's really easy to go for like um, harsher looking photos that are edited with very high contrast. But I just want to achieve like, not like keep skin tones what skin tones are, but being able to create like a moody look. Like when you see the picture, you see the emotion behind the athlete, and you see the motivation and drive. But it's gonna look good 20 years from now.
That is a really good thought to have for sure. Because I think a lot of people, especially like a lot of younger creatives, photographers specifically, want to mess around with that so much that you begin to get this like the timeless is the perfect word to say. Like that, I've been telling my wife for like a couple months now that I want timeless like tattooed right here, right
Yeah,
near where I can trigger, because
yeah.
that's the word I want to think of every time I'm taking a photo.
Mhm.
Um, that's a really, really good thought to have when you're taking pictures. And as far as editing goes, it that makes sense. We are moving into a new age of photography. And I think you see it with like all the social media that you see,
Mhm.
more stylized. Like a team has a look. The Falcons
Yeah.
have a look. The Panthers have a look. I don't think the Broncos really have a look.
They don't
Hmm.
really have a
Hmm.
consistent look.
Hmm.
So,
And it's okay to, I want you to be as honest as you want to on here.
yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think they have a consistent look yet, which, maybe if the Broncos are listening to this, like Cassidy can provide that consistency for you.
Yeah.
um, so from my experience, um, I came out of school with this actually a thought in doing fashion. I tended to lean very dark, moody.
Mhm.
Um, I was studying. If you're familiar with art history, there's a period called the Baroque period, and it was chiaroscuro, very uh, contrasty, dramatic lighting in all these paintings and sculptures, and every piece that came out of that time. So I gravitated towards that, and coming out of school, didn't really have any fashion, things that happened,
Yeah.
but I started assisting people, specifically Kevin Lyles, yeah, who's based here. And my Siri keeps popping up for some reason. Um, so learning from him, this is where I want to kind of hit home a point with you before you kind of, because this is where the timeless part comes from.
Yeah.
It's not so much your editing. The timeless part comes from how you see.
Mm, okay.
Specifically thinking more so photography. With design, I can't necessarily speak on the design aspect of things,
Mhm.
because yes, then there is more of like a treatment that you're doing with all kinds of different things in the design aspect, like graphic design. But with photography, the timeless aspect definitely comes from just how you see things. Um, it should be there should be something that comes out of the camera first that you just add your little treatment to, that makes it just more you.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned that from Kevin. Kevin was a very big influence as far as like watching him work and how he separated himself from everybody else in his
Yeah.
field. Um, and that was a thing that I took into my career and tried to emulate my own way. I didn't sit there and try to be Kevin Lyles. Um, it was very, it was a, there was a big effort of me trying to be me. And another thing to kind of be aware of is that that can always change. As of recently, I stopped shooting. I shot my with my 35 for a long time, and I had a tendency to shoot wide open all the time at 1.4, which
Yeah.
is I see a lot of younger creative photographers doing that.
Mhm.
And I literally like had to say like, okay, I'm shooting on my 70-200 at f4, not going below f4 this whole day. Started doing that more and more.
Yeah.
Um, and that really helped me branch out of that. And I know I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but what I'm trying to get going back to is learn how to see first before you kind of
Okay.
start thinking about these editing um, treatments that you want to start making for yourself. Um, so maybe a thing to think about is start assisting. You're kind of working under people at Liberty, so
Yeah.
that's kind of a
Mhm.
good thing to start doing. Doing things like this, asking a lot of questions to people that you find have that same sort of avenue that you're looking for. I think does all that make sense for you?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess, and just like establishing, getting like your composition how you want it before, rather than in post, because it's a lot easier to edit
Mm-hmm.
when you
Yep.
have something great to look at. So
Mm-hmm. As far as like with your photography, um, do you have some images that you want to pull up?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
While I'm pulling this up,
Mhm.
what do you like? How do you find inspiration in taking photos?
Hmm.
Where does that come from, and how do you like make it so your photos don't seem redundant? If that makes sense. I know it's a broad question, but
No, no, no. Hmm. I think inspiration kind of comes and goes. Um, I see a lot of people doing some really cool things out there. I don't know. I've just been kind of sitting in this idea of like, if I want to separate myself from everybody else, like I have unfollowed like maybe 3,000 people off my Instagram
oh wow.
because like I didn't want to sit there on all day and just like look, look, and look, look, and then just
Mhm.
keep getting inundated with like all these different ways of seeing and stuff like that. Like the best way for me to start seeing how you have to definitely, you know who Annie Leibovitz is, right?
Mm-mm.
No. Oh man.
No.
Oh my gosh. Man. So look up who Annie Leibovitz is. She's like a
Okay.
big, and I know this is kind of like stepping outside of sports. She was a big editorial fashion commercial photographer. Big, big,
Okay.
big. Worked for Rolling Stone since it began. But she talks about how like in a couple of documentaries, and I have a couple of her books, but she talks about how when she goes into a shoot, she was talking about, I know this one shoot in particular, she was shooting something of Hillary Clinton in this like really dark place. I was like a bar or restaurant or something like that. And people there that were covering it were shooting with their flash. They were like trying to make sure they caught the moment that way,
Yeah.
like clean. Like you can see Hillary, you can see where you are. And she had the thought of like, that's not how the moment actually is. Like
Yeah.
I'm seeing it in a very dark setting. There's like a couple little lights here and there that are lighting her. Let me shoot it like that. Like learning how to see your own way, you will always find yourself doing something different here and there. Um, and just kind of like trusting yourself to do that too. It
Yeah.
can be hard, but just experimenting, shooting all the time helps you see that. Shoot a
Okay.
lot.
Awesome. That's really helpful. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are you able to see it now?
Yeah. And
Okay. Perfect.
cool. So this is your image, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So explain this image to me.
So this is just at practice over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it, um, I definitely cropped in a lot because you could originally see the defender and him. Um, but I wanted to make it black and white because I wanted you to be able to see. I think black and white definitely makes the image more moody, but also like I think you can see the emotion on his face, and it portrays it better black and white. So that's kind of why I went the route that I did.
Okay. And then, so in color, these pants would be like that maroon type color that you guys have.
Yeah, it's a red. Yeah.
Okay. So, uh, hmm. What's your thought process behind going into black and white? Like, why do you choose to go black and white?
I guess kind of what I just like I think that it shows. I mean, obviously it makes it more moody. And I've only like been taking photos this past summer. That's just when I started. So I'm still learning, but the people that have taught me and I look up to it like with Liberty Athletics, they're very talented, but just um, you shouldn't put your images in black and white all the time. Like you need to pick and choose what photos to do it in. In this specific photo from practice that I took, I just thought that it has a lot of contrast as far as tones go. And so with the sky and him, I thought it would look good being in black and white. So
Mhm. Yeah, there are definitely moments that I've seen that just don't work in color. Like
yeah.
you see what's happening, you see the emotion on his face and things like that, but like the color just doesn't work with what you
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
that's giving you. So taking the color out can definitely making things black and white really just helps you focus on the moment that's happening.
Yeah.
So that's really good that you're thinking that way when it comes to the emotion and being able to deduct, figure out which one to use, color
Yeah.
or um, black and white. And this is a really clear image. Um, I mean, I like it. I do.
Okay.
Um, do you have any negatives, or is there something about this image that you're kind of just like, I could have done this better, that better?
I think what I'm most struggling with right now when editing in black and white, and you could attest to this, um, like there is obvious contrast between like the sky and him, but as far as like getting the ultimate amount of contrast where it's not looking like, oh, you can tell that's like super, like they brought up the contrast, they brought down the blacks all the way, not looking like that, but looking very natural. But where you can still see like his face is the focal point of the
Hmm.
image. And so I
Hmm.
think maybe I struggled a little bit with that.
Okay.
Um, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Hmm. I mean, this is a trial and error time for you. Um, I think it looks fine. I think your
Okay.
tones look great. um, I think it's good to possibly have an explanation behind the creative choices you make, um, because I'm trying to articulate this the right way. Um, there's times where I've edited things in a warmer black and white tone
Yeah.
and a cooler black and white tone. It just kind of, for me, it's like whatever's happening, that's how I go. Um, would I say it's the most consistent thing on my behalf? No. Like that's something I need to get better about too. Like I'm in the same boat as you,
Yeah.
and that you're going to find yourself, if people don't admit to you that they're still trying to work on things, they're lying.
Yeah.
Because it's a constant, you're constantly trying to make things better. I'm trying to be more consistent when it comes to things like that. But I
Yeah.
think the approach, first of all, like you're good. Like you're making this just a straightforward black and white image. Contrast is perfectly fine. If you made the choice to make it less contrasty, make it a little bit more flat, that's totally
Okay.
fine. That's you. Like just own it and explain why. That's all.
Okay. Um, this might be a stupid question, I don't know as far as your part, but um,
There's no stupid questions.
When when making images like black and white, do you first of all, do you edit in Lightroom?
No. Mm-mm.
What,
I'm one of the weird people that edit in Camera Raw.
okay,
So I run through Bridge
okay,
and then select all the images that I want to edit and then bring over to Camera Raw. And if it's like a project where I'm working kind of like image to image, then I'll
yeah,
bring it into Photoshop, but I don't
okay,
use Lightroom. Mm-mm.
okay. So when editing in black and white, do you make the like I guess in Camera Raw it's different, but make the black and white adjustment, or do you just bring down your saturation all the way?
I just bring down the saturation
Okay,
and mess with the contrasts and the highlights and shadows and
okay,
stuff like that. Yeah. I
okay,
mean, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. And if you choose to do it one way, by all means.
yeah. Well, speaking of Malik,
Malik. Awesome. Okay. So explain this image to me.
so this was one of the scrimmages right before we started gameplay. Um, and if you've been following Malik, he loves to run the ball. So I just was able to capture this. I think I was in the end zone and I was shooting with a 70 to 200. Um, Obviously I zoomed in, but I thought it was a great photo. I think I shot at 2.8 f-stop. So,
Okay.
but
So first, but I want to say this before we kind of move on.
okay.
There's a reason why I'm asking you, you know, like why this image, or like this
Yeah.
first question, because it's really good for you to when you're self editing, asking yourself these questions and
Okay.
being really really honest with yourself. And if you have doubt, if there's something that's doubt, like either show it to somebody and say, hey, like I really like this image, but there's this and that. Have them either, kind of like, yeah, I agree. There's, or there's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's really good to learn how to edit
Yeah.
yourself because your portfolio, if you want to make this a career in the future based on your images alone, um, it's really good to learn how to edit yourself.
Okay.
So asking yourself these questions picture by picture really helps you tone it down to your best work. Like you should be showing your best work.
Okay.
If you ask people like Kevin or any of these, people that have been shooting forever to look through
Hmm.
your work and you send them, I mean, I did this. I sent Simon Brody like 70 pictures from a Falcons game that I shot like a couple years ago. And he tore me to pieces because he's like,
Really?
I shouldn't be looking through 70 pictures, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you should be narrowing this down to like 10 max, like around that
Yeah.
number. The same that's how you should approach your website, your portfolio, and things like that.
Hmm.
So that's again tangent, but
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to explain that before we move forward. Like, it's really good to ask yourself these questions, not just other
Yeah.
people.
That's funny that you say that because at the beginning of the summer when I started shooting for football practice, I would give like my boss like probably like 60 photos from practice that day. And one day he was like, I want you to take the best 15, edit those and then send them to me because I just want to see like as far as what you were saying earlier about like timeless photos, like being able to see what looks good, and not like all of those random other photos that really don't like showcase what like what you see, and what you're talented at. So that's funny that you say that because
It,
that's something he emphasized.
yeah, and it helps you promote yourself better. You
Hmm.
look at some of the best people to shoot. It's just sports alone.
Yeah.
They have tons of bad images. Like they
Hmm.
know how to pull that one to make their portfolio pop. They
Yeah.
know that one that made the story, like told the story of the day,
Hmm.
down to like that one shot out of that big burst. They just know how to do that.
Yeah.
And when you do this more and more, you start to do it on the field too.
Yeah.
So you'll start to like be shooting those images, and it's almost like your brain saw all of those shots and you're like, okay, I know there was that one in there that did it.
Yeah.
Like just you'll start to do it before you even put your card in the computer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. It's good to learn how to do that. So this brings me to, did you crop this?
Yeah.
How much of a crop did you do?
I think I cropped it. You could see the offensive line. And so I cropped it in quite a bit.
Okay. So this is something that I brought up to a lot of people, a lot of up and coming creatives and stuff like that. And I same talk actually that I was talking about with Simon and the Falcon shoot and stuff like that. He hit home that learn how to use what you have to the best of your abilities. Don't try to pretend like it's a 400 millimeter lens.
Okay.
I don't like getting too technical, but this is something that I see time and time again because it's not so much like y'all are just like younger people do it on purpose. Like there was a thought that running through my mind when I used to do it of like, I need to get this. Like,
yeah.
This is a moment that I need to get, and I don't know how else to get it other than shooting with my 7200.
Yeah.
But these are the moments you just kind of have to be honest with yourself and just say, like, I have a 7200. That is way over there.
Yeah.
Let it come to me.
Okay.
That's when you take that time that you're shooting this moment that's so far away from you to anticipate where you should be when it is close to you.
Okay.
Because Malik's been scoring a lot of touchdowns recently.
Yeah.
So if you wait in the back of the end zone, I'm sure you'll catch something of something important.
Yeah.
You don't need to shoot your 7200 across the field.
Okay.
It's just, and I know it's hard because you see other people on the sideline doing it too. You're just like, oh my gosh, Siri, I don't want to talk to you. You see all of them doing it, and you're just like, I want that.
Yeah.
And that will only happen when you are capable of, either renting, purchasing that specific piece of gear.
Yeah.
But the people who really know how to make magic happen know how to use their gear to the best of capacity they can do.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think sometimes I get my mind in, oh, that's distracting. Like the things in the image are distracting that I want to crop it in so much that you lose like what's going on. You lose context of the image. I think that's where I struggle. But.
Okay. And these are all your images, by the way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've only got to shoot one game. Just as a student worker, we don't get a ton of, like, I can't be on the field with COVID restrictions and stuff. So that's.
I don't think I asked.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, I don't think I asked you at the beginning, but how long have you been taking pictures?
So I just started taking pictures last fall. So fall of 2019. I started out with Liberty intramurals. I worked for them, so I just would take pictures. But I have taught I've learned just from like watching tutorials and different stuff like that, learning from other people. But yeah, and then I've just started taking pictures like seriously, I guess, for Liberty Athletics this fall.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Just thought I'd try to keep that with everything that we've been talking about so far. Okay, so explain this image to me.
So this is one of my favorites that I took from this past game, just because it did start raining kind of in the fourth quarter, and like just the effect that rain like gives in the photos. Like you can't see it, but as a photographer, like we were on the sidelines with like trash bags over all of the equipment and like drenched in rain. But like I like this photo because like you can obviously see like he's excited about the game and he's happy about the game, but also like the fact that I think my f-stop was so low that you can see like it blurred out in the background, but you can just see him. And I wanted to keep it color because I do like the pop of red that you see.
Okay. Yeah. I think you caught a good moment here for sure. Rain is a fun, oh man, physically, is it
Fun. I don't
fun to
know.
shoot in?
Fun.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know if that's the word.
Yeah, that's the importance of insurance right there. But no, rain is a really fun time to shoot in, to capture some, some really cool moments. And like freezing that rain and making it, make it obvious that it's raining is
Yeah.
very valuable. The fact that you caught him smiling, I can tell that, he's, enjoying himself. Makes me think that they're winning.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the color choice, I totally, I'm behind you on the red. Like,
Okay.
that's, if you feel that way, I'm behind it.
Okay.
Just something that I want to kind of explain to you, that I've, going back to when I was talking about shooting wide open all the time.
Yeah.
Learn that more. Like, just push the boundaries more.
Okay.
Dedicate a game to shooting not at 2.8.
Okay.
Unless I get sometimes if it's like low light and you need to get that 2.8
Yeah.
open, do
Yeah.
it. But like, this is a day game, so like, close down, because you will still get a background that's blurred out.
Yeah.
Especially at that focal length, you're especially, it's the math that kind of goes in through your mind the more and more you do this. But understanding the distance between your subject and the background, or any elements that are in
Yeah.
your you'll just kind of be able
Yeah.
to figure that out over time. But like, shooting at like f4 in this situation, you could have still blurred the guys out in the background.
Yeah.
And something I've noticed too, when I've transitioned to shooting more closed, is at first I didn't notice how much I was missing focus.
Mhm.
But yeah, I might have gotten some eyes in focus, and you can make out who the person is, and it's
Yeah.
readable. But when you start getting that, like, that f4, f5, 6, you get him all in focus,
Yeah.
and it feels, I don't know, it's like a different, it's like, oh, like, there's so much more detail here
Yeah.
that I was missing before, that like if you would have shot this at 5.6, you would have caught more detail in his helmet, kind of as it's wrapping around his helmet. You would have caught all those
Yeah.
raindrops around his helmet.
Mhm.
You would have had a little bit more detail on that front shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, things like that just start to pop out to you more, and it just becomes such a more of an image, rather
Mhm.
than just shooting at 2.8 and
Yeah.
having that shallow depth of field, which will happen.
Yeah.
If you're closed down all the way to like 22, or not even 8, like, you can still get a great amount of depth of field. So
Yeah.
don't think that just you're shooting at 2.8 you're getting that depth of field, because you can still get it at the other
Okay.
f-stops.
As far as like obviously like I'm still starting out, still learning. As far as messing with your settings, especially with like action shots, what is the best way that you learned? How when I adjust my f-stop, how should I adjust my ISO versus how should I adjust my shutter speed? Where I still am able to get the image in focus if they're moving, but also like it's not overexposed or underexposed, if that makes sense. I'm still learning how to adjust settings. What's your
Okay.
best advice as far as going?
What camera are you shooting on?
Normally I'm shooting on a 6D Mark II. But sometimes depending on who's working or who's not, sometimes I'll shoot with the 1DS or the 5D.
Okay.
So
So for the longest time shooting sports, I was shooting on a 5D Mark IV or 3 to 4.
yeah,
Until, I was able to either rent a 1DX,
yeah,
get my hands on something that you're able to shoot at a very high ISO and it not
yeah.
be bad.
Mhm.
But you just learn how to sacrifice something in
Okay.
there. Like, be okay with sacrifice. Like, if you're shooting on, like you said, your 60 or 5D, and you have to crank that ISO up. If you don't want all that grain, if
Yeah.
you can't embrace the grain, shoot faster, because it is
Okay.
sports and you want to capture
Yeah.
that motion clearly, and underexpose a little bit, and
Okay.
just trust that you can possibly bring it back up in post.
Yeah.
We we have the luxury now of like shooting and being able to bring things like that back, rather than on film where it might have been really hard to do that.
Yeah.
So embrace that thing, and learn to just kind of sacrifice something somewhere so that you can in post maybe fix it. It's, when you get 1DXs and you start working in with those kinds of cameras, then
Yeah.
you don't have to sacrifice as much, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Hey, it's really nice shooting with 1DX.
Yeah, it is like shooting basketball was night and day with a 1DX and a 5D Mark
Yeah.
IV. Like, 5D Mark IV is a good camera, but the 1DX really helped me shoot in those situations without a strobe.
Yeah.
So until you're able to, going back to a similar light with the 70 to 200,
Mhm.
use that body that you have to the best of your ability.
Okay.
This moment that you have here isn't a 1DX specific moment. You can capture this with any type of camera.
Yeah.
You'll see other photographers on the field that have 1DXs, and then they have a 5D or A9 or something, or excuse me, like just more of like a everyday body
Yeah.
with them, because they know that body is meant for something that's not necessarily action specific. They're going
Okay.
for that that more creative, what's the word I'm looking for? There's action, and then there's, sorry, this is escaping me right now. There's a term for it, but just something that's not action.
Yeah.
So just know that you can do that. Like, when you have a 70-200 on a 6D, know that while everybody's so focused on the action happening on the field, if you know that you have what you have in your hand, and you turn just to your left, you can see this moment, and
Yeah.
you can capture this perfectly fine. Like
Yeah.
knowing what you have can really put you in a different mindset to capture something that nobody else really is probably thinking about in that time.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
I have one more photo, if that's okay.
One more photo. Can I ask a question that's not related to a photo? So as far as like, me graduating in May and getting a new job, recently I've been like just wondering like what is the best way to brand yourself, whether it be like for photo or for design, but like for this specifically for photo, do you recommend, obviously Twitter is a big platform right now to get your name out there and to network with people. But as far as like getting your photos out there, do you recommend like starting your own photography, like creative account on like Instagram?
I mean,
Like
I
what
think
is,
it.
sorry,
Go
go ahead.
No, go
I was
finish
just
your
going to say,
question.
what is the best way to brand yourself to get a job or an internship?
Job or internship? So I've been a freelancer since I've been in Atlanta.
Okay.
So that part of me is undefined. when it comes to job.
Yeah.
The best way to market yourself is kind of, I guess, where you're kind of going with that question, is to, yeah, it's good to probably have something that separates you, Cassidy, from your work. Like if you
Mhm.
have a personal page that you're putting up, you know, Friday and Saturday evening photos up with your friends on, and you're also
Yeah.
putting your work on, it's probably best to maybe split that off. Like
Okay.
you know, I don't personally, there's so many people, so many professionals that'll say like, you better have your own separate account for your work.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care normally.
Yeah.
Like, it's, if people really care about you,
Mhm.
they'll want to get to know who you are along with
Yeah.
what work you're producing. But all that aside, that's up to you to see if you want to separate your personal life from your work. Um, and I find, going into the social media question, Instagram is of course a great platform because it's image based.
Yeah.
It's almost a portfolio for photographers now. A
Mhm.
lot of brands kind of just look at it as a portfolio piece.
Mhm.
Um, Twitter has been a very interesting place to put photos.
Yeah.
I think it has a really cool outreach. Like you can definitely connect with people way faster than you can on Instagram when it comes to your work.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's a conversation there all the time that can happen if you're posting your work there. So definitely stay on Twitter with your stuff. Twitter is a really good place to network and um, have conversations with people, um, get your work noticed, you know, retweeting
Yeah.
and things like that. It's a really cool little platform that I think not many photographers are utilizing to the best of its capabilities.
Okay.
And sorry, going back to branding too, you can make your own little watermark or your own logo and stuff like that if
Mhm.
you want to. A lot of people like to do that. It just depends on where you are and
Yeah.
like what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to be more of like a commercial person and stuff like that, yeah, it's probably best to maybe start thinking about making your own logo and your own brand identity.
Mhm.
But if you're focused on, like you said, in your goals, you know, working for an NFL team, it's more so about what you can accomplish with your work. They don't really
Yeah.
care about your brand. They want to know that you can get the job done.
Okay. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Do you want to talk about this image?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
Um,
explain this.
so I am working on a project all of this semester, creating a magazine actually for one of my graphic design classes. And I'm doing it on like what's an athlete's purpose, what drives them to compete, what motivates them. So I interviewed one of the hockey players from our team. And so then I just went to one of their games that they had and took pictures. It's funny now looking at it, I cropped in again. And so like understanding, because I shot with a 70 to 200, um, like just already learning from what you've told me, like I should have not done that and used like more of the background of what I had. But um, I really like this photo just because it's a lot of contrast. It was definitely difficult to learn how to shoot through the glass though. As far as like finding focus, especially with hockey, this was really hard to do. But
This is shooting through the glass.
yeah,
Can you hear me, Cassidy?
yes,
Is this shooting through glass?
yeah, it is.
Every time you say your response, I can't hear you. Say it again.
Yeah, I'm shooting through
Okay, there
glass.
you go. There
Yeah,
you go. I
sorry.
can hear you now. It's okay. Okay. So I mean, I don't see an issue. I can see where shooting through glass. I don't have any hockey experience. I've shot some like indoor lacrosse through glass,
Yeah.
and I can see that it's pretty similar. It's got the same setup and all that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I see the difficulty there. And yeah, it's good that you're recognizing the previous, what we were talking about with the 7200 and cropping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to keep in your mind from here on out. Just kind of think like, is this should I be shooting this with my 7200?
Okay.
Um, I mean, I like the thought of this is something that's interesting during this COVID time,
Yeah.
because a lot of people shooting from stands is you'll be able to tell 50 years down the road when that photo was shot during COVID, because it's either like a lot of green, you know,
Yeah.
it's you don't see like a foreground background. It's just like the
Yeah.
player and then just a lot of the field or whatever they're playing on.
Yeah.
Hockey's really cool because you have this like just all white high key
Yeah.
thing happening, which is I can't wait to shoot hockey eventually. But again, it's good that you have that in mind, the
Yeah.
contrast, and have all these little things just going on in there. You're seeing, you're learning, you're teaching yourself how to see your own way.
Hmm.
But let me maybe run a little exercise through your mind now. So do you remember this moment specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So go ahead. No, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I didn't know if you wanted me to describe it or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, like specifically, I don't know all the hockey terms correctly because
I don't
I'm more
either.
football, but like similar to like a fast break, I guess you'd say, but like pushing the puck up the ice, and he was like by himself, like there wasn't a lot of defenders. They were more towards the farther end of the goal. But he was going pretty fast. So my shutter speed was pretty high, but
Okay. I'm assuming 7200
yeah.
is 60.
Yeah, I was shooting with 60.
Okay, so can you think outside of what was going on in this shot, what else was happening around you?
No, not really.
I like think about that.
Okay.
Like, you know, or going forward, you'll know that this moment is happening. And you
Hmm.
shot this before,
Yeah.
and that like that FOMO is going to happen where you're like, oh, it's happening again. Like, I really like that
Yeah.
shot from before. I'm going to go for it. I want you to, right before you go to shoot this moment, take a good look around, because let's say this is a moment of like a fast break and you're at home,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you're allowed fans right now.
Very minimal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in an ideal situation, there's fans there.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot happening probably in this moment that you're missing because
Yeah.
you're just trying to get the action.
Okay.
There could be a fan next to you, a kid like going nuts that there's a breakaway and he knows that there's about to be a goal happening out of this break,
Yeah.
and anticipating, if he's not doing it, waiting for the goal to happen for him to freak out.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you see a fast break happening and you feel like it's a goal opportunity, and you have
Hmm.
a chance to get down towards the box where all the players are for a celebration shot.
Yeah.
Like, you're missing these moments
Okay.
just because you're trying to fulfill that, the action.
Yeah.
Anticipation is huge in sports.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's really good to know the sport, to learn it. Like you and I don't know much about hockey.
Yeah.
Um, it's really good to learn, like, when certain things are happening, what's
Hmm.
happening everywhere else. Just studying
Yeah.
sports, and it really helps your anticipation. Because there's probably people there shooting that are really just so focused on this because that's all they know. This is
Yeah.
where the action is. They're just following y'all around.
Hmm.
Like, you're in you have an opportunity to be shooting something different at this time.
Okay.
a moment that nobody else can probably think of in that moment, because they're just so focused on that one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think too, like the energy, especially in a full stadium, the energy when the action's happening is like so many eyeballs are so focused on this like one thing happening
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that there's like some sort of weird play, like the energy's so focused there that you want to focus there.
Yeah.
But maybe learn how to, in moments like that, pull away from what's happening and look
Okay.
around to see, okay, how are people reacting? Is there, just take a moment to look around.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's very helpful. I think that even like obviously like one of the main sports right now is football because there's nothing else at Liberty going on. But as far as like touchdowns go, like I think sometimes I'm super focused on the person like either catching the ball or like running it in that I miss like the other guy celebrating off to the side or miss like even like the QB who's the one like passing the ball to the receiver in the end zone.
yep.
So like I guess like me getting better at knowing my surroundings and knowing the context of the shot,
Mm-hmm.
that is like something that I'll gain a lot of wisdom from. So
Yeah, it's good to learn. It's funny that you bring up context. So let's say these moments happen in sports all the time, or like records of being broke, which Malik is doing. Oop,
yeah.
oop. But like you have these moments where like let's say Malik's coming up on like a record breaking touchdown
Mm-hmm.
game, and he goes to throw it. You're so focused on the action that you're going towards the receiver,
Mm-hmm.
get the catch, the touchdown, the celebration near you.
Yeah.
But Malik literally just did something, some sort of record breaking thing,
Yeah.
and you lose all those moments in
Mm-hmm.
between because you were so focused on this.
Yeah.
So definitely remember the context that's happening each time you're out there.
Yeah.
Will help you make the right choice as far as like what you're focused on.
Okay. So basically I just need to memorize their playbook and know exactly
I'm sure if you
what
shoot them
play and
enough,
route
you might be.
Malik is
I'm
doing.
I'm sure once you get to like be around certain athletes and teams for a certain amount of time, you get to you kind of pick up on tendencies.
Yeah.
So you just know like when I was shooting Brave stuff, like when certain things are happening, you know how other players are reacting after a certain amount of time. You just know how to go there when that just happened. So, anything else that you have in mind? If you have like one more good question, you're totally fine to ask.
I would just ask you, like, moving forward, what are the best ways to learn and just develop like more knowledge about like what equipment to use and like just going forward and like pursuing more of a professional photography career in sports specifically. Who to follow? Like, obviously I follow you, but
So I think the typical response to that type of question is normally like shoot all the time. That's like the best. It is true. Shooting a lot helps you learn a lot about you and your decision making and what you're doing right and wrong. You'll go through the images afterwards and be like, this is garbage, or this was a good day.
Yeah.
But I want to go a little bit further and just going back to learn how to like see things.
Okay.
There has been times where I put my camera down and learn when you kind of like learn how to appreciate moments just without your camera. That you're teaching yourself how to see things.
Yeah.
That like going back, you better look up who Annie Leibovitz is. I'm so upset that you do not know who that is. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I have a lot to learn.
No. It's totally fine. So, man, because I thought about it for so long. I was like, learning how to just see in general helps you so much. And I thought it was, maybe it was just me and I'm being weird for saying that, but she in her book was like just learn how to see things and appreciate things. And that literally teaches you how to be more aware of moments happening. I know Annie Leibovitz is not sports, but sports is it's just, there's just so much going on that you can capture. There's just no
Yeah.
reason for you to not have, something out of every game, every, opportunity you have. So yeah, definitely just learn how to see.
Okay.
Learn how to appreciate your eyeballs in your brain and how they communicate.
Yeah.
So that's my best answer I can give.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate you just taking the time and being willing to help me out.
No, of course, and I appreciate you willing to be on this, recorded and be, open and willing for, or open to me critiquing you and other people
Yeah.
possibly hearing it. So that's I really think I'm thankful that you did that. So thank you.
What you gonna play now?